Hi guys, so sorry I look a little bit like shit. It's just that I'm going out this afternoon and I haven't had time to wash my hair or have a shower yet, so I look absolutely dreadful, and it's also really, really hot, so I'm just wearing a vest at the moment. So today I'm going to be doing a video, a review on Evie's latest one shot, Thoughts. Now, it was really, really good. In fact, it was probably one of the best, but it was devastating, put it that way. Now, I'm no stranger to devastating stuff. I mean, some of my stuff is absolutely devastating. I mean, I've written the likes of Irreversible, Together by Fate, Before His Fairy Tale, and Love Can Save It All, which are all absolutely devastating. But still, it was sad, and it was heartbreaking. Thoughts was based on the Coloan ship, which is Chloe Hewitt and Diane Buswell, which also happens to be my favourite ship apart from any of the judges' ships. It was about Diane is backstage, and one of the backing dancers on the Kevin and Karen tour, K&K, has recently got a new boyfriend. I believe it's Jake Lee, but don't punch me if I'm wrong. And when they leave, she gets really emotional and depressed about it because she's been alone for so long. She feels isolated. Diane, I mean, she feels as if she doesn't have anyone there for her but loves her. And then you suddenly see her. She goes to her cabinet, pulls out a box of paracetamol, and she says that she's been taking them for a knee injury, but then she says maybe it could help heal her heart as well. Then you have a kind of jump in time, but you don't realise that it's not actually happening. You kind of realise that it's like a fantasy kind of state, if you know what I mean. Basically, Chloe comes to the dressing room, asks Diane if she wants to go sneak into a party. Chloe and Diane go and do that. They sneak into the party. They dance to ABBA. I believe it's Voulez-Vous. Sorry about my French, I don't speak French. And then they dance until they get kicked out, and then they confess their feelings for one another. Sorry about that, I had to go shut the door. My cousins are over for the day, and I quickly slipped off. They're coming here for the day. I quickly slipped off to check that they weren't here, and they're not here yet, so that's good. They have my cousins have a tendency to either turn up really early, like 2 hours early, or 2 hours late. They're never on time, and I was hoping that they're not 2 hours early, and they aren't, don't worry. So going back to it, so yeah, they get kicked out the party, and then they confess their feelings for one another. Then, well, that's where it starts to get a bit interesting. Chloe goes to Diane's dressing room in real life. Chloe finds Diane on the floor, unresponsive and extremely cold. Goes to get Kevin and realises that she's got a packet of pills next to her. She runs to get Kevin and Karen, who have been signing photos for fans and that kind of thing. They come back, they call an ambulance or whatever, and they realise that she is unfortunately dead. And what they don't realise is how she has been suicidal underneath their own noses, and yet they have been with her 24/7, and yet they haven't realised that she's suicidal, because she's obviously taken the pills as a means of suicide. And yeah, and you only realise then that you realise that. Now, don't kill me if I'm wrong, because I'm not the brightest spark, and if I often quite slow to catch on, but I'm guessing that what it was the thing where they go to the party and they're dancing to ABBA and having a really good time, and that that's a dream state, I'm guessing. And then the last part is actually reality. And they're really upset because they were saying that Diane was one of the happiest people, always bubbly, always smiling, always happy. But yet there was no signs of her being in a suicidal state, and she never spoke to anyone about it. And that is a brilliant way to show that it was actually a brilliant way of showing that the message that it's not always obvious to tell when someone is suicidal. I mean, it really isn't. Often a lot of depressed people, and take it from me because I've been depressed before, believe me, a lot of depressed people don't always act depressed. I mean, a lot of people that you might see with depression, when they're out on the street, you might think they're the bubbliest, happiest people ever, but you don't often realise the actual mental condition behind them. I mean, I've been depressed, and when I'm in company with people, with my friends and that, I'm a very bubbly, outgoing, happy person. I've got quite a wacky kind of sense of humour. I'm always joking, making terrible dad jokes. I'm always laughing and being like, well, I wouldn't say flirtatious, but I'm always being like really happy and that kind of thing. And a lot of people don't realise that very often I've got terrible moods sometimes, and it just goes to show that not all suicidal people show the signs of being suicidal, and that's the sad thing. Sometimes you don't realise that someone's suicidal until the irreversible damage is done, and that's a sad fact of life, really. So yeah, I thought this was a really good way to show that it's not always obvious when somebody is actually thinking about taking their own life, and it's really sad, actually. So my opinions on Thoughts, the only thing that confused me a little bit was the ending, and it was the very last few lines where Chloe slipped her ring onto Diane's finger. That was the only little thing that confused me a little bit. But apart from that, I understood the whole story, and I mean, it was brilliant. I mean, I love Chloe and Diane for one. I loved the idea, and I don't mind dark stuff at all. I mean, I sometimes cry when I read dark stuff. I didn't cry when reading this. I was a little bit, oh my god, how did that happen? And I was shocked when I was reading it, and I was a little bit, but I'm fine. I didn't actually cry. I welled up a little bit, but it was a really good story. I mean, if a book makes me cry, you have to say that you've done a pretty good job. I only cry if a book is good enough, that it will make me cry. I mean, I cry a lot, but the book actually has to be convincing enough to make me cry. I mean, I constantly cry when I'm writing my own stories. I constantly cry. In fact, my writing is a way to let me cry and let out my emotions, if you know what I mean. It was actually one of my favourite one-shots, to be honest. I really, really enjoyed it. It was absolutely brilliant. It was really well written. It was really interesting. I loved the twist in it. I love books that surprise me. I mean, I love books that are clear, but I love books where something happens that you go, oh my god, I did not expect that. That's what I love. I absolutely love that. It was brilliant. I mean, I loved it. And yeah, it was emotional, and yeah, it was really sad and all of that, but I told you, I love sad stuff. I love dark stuff. I love that kind of thing, and I really, really enjoyed it, and it was definitely one of the best of the one-shots. I'd say that I'm biased because of the content matter, but I'd say this one, and I'd actually say this is probably the best one-shot so far. followed by Rings, and followed by 2014. But yeah, I'd say that this is definitely the best one shot that you've written so far. No joke. And come on, that is taking over ones with the judges, and that's taken over Rings, that's taken over Friends and More Than, that's taken over 2014. That's when you know that you've written something good, when you can write something without the judges and it can still be my favourite one shot. You have done something good if that happens. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon with more videos, and I hope you enjoyed the review. Bye. I'm gonna go get changed now. Bye.